You know that moment when you're in a meeting and someone makes a key decision, just assuming that everybody is aligned, and you look around, but you know that the key people were not consulted. You know this is how tension builds, that all in all, this could have been avoided if these people that are making the decision would have just spoken to the key people, 5-minute conversation tops, just to make sure that they really are aligned. The frustrating part is that it's typically the same people over and over that have this kind of conflict or tension build over time, and it could have been avoided. Today, I want to talk about 5 steps that can be used to manage conflict between team members in a quick manner that keeps things moving and also peaceful. Whenever one of these situations happens where you see it happen real time, the miscommunication happened, some decision was made, the person wasn't consulted. The people that are quietly building resentment may think, oh, this person thinks they're better than us. They won't even talk to us. They won't even consider what we're thinking. A lot of the times, it's not necessarily like an ego thing. Many times, I noticed it was miscommunication or processes being undefined. And both of those things have solutions. People that are in charge of solving these critical issues, they want to solve things quickly. They don't realize that the fastest path forward is to go slowly, ask questions, align early. A lot of times they assume everyone's aligned, they assume everyone's on the same page. And then by the time the conflict actually shows up, it's the tension's been building for months. It's not overnight that it happened. No matter what character you play in this situation, whether you're the one that is inadvertently causing the tension, or you're the one on the receiving end where you're perceiving there to be some conflict, or you're like me where I was witnessing as a third party, seeing the tensions arise, people will default to not saying anything. They'll wait. And then whenever whatever goes wrong, you just say, oh, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. I saw it from day one. But that actually makes it so much worse. You're going to end up with wasted resources, wasted time, sometimes duplicate effort. And again, all of this can be solved quickly with just conversation and overall not being afraid to talk to people that are in authority. At the end of the day, everybody wants the same things to move the company forward. The longer you wait to solve these conflicts, the more expensive the conflict becomes. So the very first step is to clarify where the disconnect starts. At what point did the two opposing views start seeing differently? No matter what position again you're in, make sure you don't react quickly. Just maybe think about asking the question in a different way. Sometimes, most of the time, this works. And don't feel intimidated like you're correcting them. You're more asking to double check that you're talking about the same thing. You're speaking from the same place. The second step is to align on the actual goal of the conversation. What is it we're trying to achieve? And then in this way, everyone gets on the same mentality that everybody wants the same thing. We just have different ways of going about it. If you don't align on the goal from the start, every single conversation is going to turn into a debate. So, a waste of time. Step 3. The third step is to have a calm, direct conversation. And in this conversation, it's pretty critical to have a neutral tone. And if the conflict seems pretty strong, a mediator would not be a bad idea. One thing to avoid is if you feel like there might be some arguing taking place, if you anticipate some arguing taking place, it would be good to avoid doing it in front of teams. So if it's between two managers or a lead and a manager, so on, try and not have each respective team present because that's going to just lead to other tensions. And again, you're not here trying to prove a point or to win. The whole point is to move forward. So you can try opening up the conversation once you already addressed where you started to see things in the opposite way. You addressed what the goal is. You can start with an open-ended question, kind of like, I wonder if there's a third option that works for all of us. Compromise. The fourth step is figuring out what is actually underneath all of the tension. And a lot of the time, this will be the toughest part, but critical because it's going to address tensions in the long term and it's going to help prevent it moving forward. There's a process called 5 whys in the operations world where you try and get to the root cause of why something went wrong. So, in a similar fashion here, to get to the root of why there was such a disconnect, such conflict, it would be interesting to ask the two opposing sides that have a conflict why until you get to the root of what really happened. A lot of times it's miscommunication, or worst case, it's some underlying bias, just some underlying bias that has been built from over time that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, the team's going to keep on being inefficient. Most conflict that falls into this category is not about that specific issue that's happening at that moment. It's about all the other small things that happen before that specific moment, everything that led up to it. One question that I think is really good is asking one of the parties involved, how would you address this problem if you were in their position? Kind of like put yourself in their shoes. How would you, knowing everything that we all know now, how would you address it? And kind of just, even if you're not going to use a solution they mention, trying to make a point for both parties to see the other party's side. And that typically tends to help as far as coming up with a compromise. The fifth and final step is to actually, once you've had those conversations where you agree on the next steps, on the solution, on the compromise, make sure that you actually close the loop. You take notes, you read the notes out loud, making sure that everyone's on the same page before you walk away from the meeting. Everyone has the same understanding of what that conversation concluded in. And of course, most importantly, send out the notes to people involved just to be safe. And if you're going into a meeting, a big meeting where you anticipate pushback, it's a great idea to try and do almost like pre-alignment meetings to make sure that no unexpected conflict comes up in the middle of the big meeting. The best conflict is one that never makes it into the big meetings. So now, just to wrap things up, the part that most people don't want to talk about is the fact that this needs to be addressed. We can't just keep sweeping it under the rug. All of this limits perspective, and as the behavior continues, especially amongst people in leadership, you're going to see it spread down to the people that report to the people that are fighting are going to also start having conflict amongst them. And even if we want to ignore it, all of it affects the work. So all you can do is try your best. It's not going to fix everything. It's not going to fix toxic personalities. All you can really help with is neutrality in the situation and helping teams be efficient. Just remember, you're not here to fix people. You're here to manage how you engage in the workplace environment. If there's anything you take away from this, I would say is worst case, if you're witnessing conflict arise, especially if you're the one and that's one of the parties involved in the conflict, the best thing you can do is assume the person has good intentions and assume that it was miscommunication or undefined process Assume these things before you assume bad intent, and that's going to help a lot. So the next time conflict comes up, just take a pause and just reflect. Where could the disconnect have started? And go from there. What kind of strategies have you used to deal with these kind of things? I'd be curious to know. These are mine. Hopefully that helps a little bit, but I'm also curious to hear what others do. Follow for more and we'll discuss more workplace strategies that can help us out.